welcome to Historiesbanan History Reconnaissance. This time we bring you a gem of a documentary. Marinship Corporation, California, 1942-1945. This is part 1 of 2. Building ships and a shipyard and a city around them. And please, like, share and subscribe. It means a lot to us.
Tanker. Deep in her hold she carries the oil which means victory in war and prosperity in peace. This is the Mission Purissima, standard bearer of a proud fleet. The Mission and Hills class tankers, built exclusively by Marinship Corporation and named for the Spanish missions and petroleum fields of their native California. They were built to a super modern design to carry the Marinship flag proudly around the world for many years. 3 months after Pearl Harbor, a wire from the U.S. Maritime Commission started the W.A. Bechtel Company and 5 affiliates building a new shipyard nestled at the foot of beautiful Mount Tamalpais on the shores of San Francisco Bay. This was the site for America's finest shipyard, a salt marsh and a rocky hill. On March 28, 1942, earth-moving machinery began its miraculous work. Pipes were laid, big tired carryalls began to move 1,000,000 yards of earth. On concrete foundations arose great buildings as work rushed on night and day. First dedicated was the administration building. As the flag flew to the breeze, workers cheered the birth of a great new shipyard. Brave forecasts came from Robert Diggs, administrative manager, from W.E. Waste, vice president and general manager, and from K.K. Bechtel, president. The 245-foot building had been built in only 34 days. Even while the shipyard was being built, out on the skids, the first ship was being pre-assembled. Just 91 days after groundbreaking, keel for the first Liberty ship was laid. Greetings came from Carl Flesher of the U.S. Maritime Commission. Ken Bechtel presented his brother Steve, a vice president, and Ray Hamilton took over as production manager for the entire yard. A mobile crane lifted the first piece of flat keel and dropped it onto the waiting keel blocks. The first arc was struck, and the ship was under construction. As fast as adjoining ways could be started, keels were laid on them, until 6 lay side by side. This was shipbuilding under difficulties, for the shipyard was not yet half built. But nothing could stop the night and day progress, while steadily on way 6, the first ship was taking shape. Construction of the mile-long shipyard had begun 26 days after the first contract was signed. Thousands of men and women were hired to lend their strong arms to victory. 30,000 piles were driven. Buildings arose on new-made land. A coffer dam held back the sea while workmen were completing the ways. While the shipyard was being built about them, shipbuilders were welding steel to steel. Thousands of orders were placed, and materials began to flow into the great warehouses. Finally, 1 year after groundbreaking, the plant stood complete. A $17 million shipyard, cradled between the green of the Marin Hills and the blue of sky. Before this shipyard was 3.5 years old, she was destined to present her nation with 15 Liberty ships, 78 big tankers, including 16 Navy oilers, and many special military craft. Marinship, though a newcomer, had achieved stature with the greatest industrial plants of the nation. Within 3.5 years, Marinship would spend $335 million to utilize 100 million man-hours of labor from a total turnover of 75,000 employees. On September 26, 1942, came the great day, launching of the first Marinship vessel, the Liberty ship William A. Richardson. Invited to share the thrill were the families of all Marinship workers. 20,000 persons stood about the flag-draped bow, starting a tradition of colorful Marinship launchings. Here was the firstborn, ready for launching 3 months after keel laying and only 6 months after groundbreaking. This was the first of world records by the many for Marinship. Here was started the custom of choosing yard sponsors, honoring the men and women who built the ship. Gracious remarks by the sponsor, wife of a Marinship carpenter, set the mood of cooperation. Now all is ready for the moment when the Richardson will leap free and start down the ways. There she goes. The champagne spray bursts in time with the shouts of 20,000 voices. The Richardson slides quietly and proudly into San Francisco Bay. Now, fully waterborne, the ship begins to drag the chains that bring her under control. And so was born the first of 15 Marinship Liberties, which were to carry war cargo to Normandy, Leyte, and around the world. These were the ships which turned the tide of war. But Marinship was destined for bigger, tougher things. Out of the blue, following an aerial survey of Marinship, Vice Admiral Howard L. Vickery, builder of the Victory fleet, brought news of a more critical job. On 6 continents and 5 oceans, American planes, tanks, and trucks needed gasoline. Marinship was chosen to build the vitally needed tankers with 10,000 horsepower motors, a powerful model never built anywhere else. Speaking to 16,000 Marinship employees, Admiral Vickery assigned them their new job. Soon from atop the sub-assembly building, the maritime M pennant with 3 gold stars flew beneath the stars and stripes. Strange new shapes in steel and odd patterns in wooden templates marked the start of tanker construction. Here were many new problems to be met and solved. By the middle of 1943, without loss of a single day, the entire yard had been converted into a great tanker production line. Ship followed ship. Within 2 years from the first tanker launching, from this yard had sailed more than 1 million deadweight tons of tanker capacity. A vast pipeline to Tokyo, carrying American victory. Highest production achievement in the tanker program was reached on the Huntington Hills, launched at Marinship only 28 days after keel laying. Aboard as guests were all those who helped to build her. Sparked to highest efficiency, these were the men and women who cut 26 days from the world's tanker record when they delivered this ship only 33 days after keel laying. Final dramatic race was at the docks, where thousands of details, plus the trial run, were completed in 5 days of teamwork. As always, the high-level outfitting docks contributed to faster production. Best of all, this ship required only 540,000 man-hours, except for one, the cheapest tanker built at Marinship. To find the secret of the Marinship miracle of production, we must look to many ingredients. First, there were the workers living in a beautiful new community less than a mile from the shipyard. Marin City was built for them and their families by the federal government. Here were 1,500 homes housing 5,000 people. A short distance away, 1,200 rooms for single persons provided comfortable dormitory accommodations. Schools, hospitals, stores made up a model community. Other workers that one might see flowing in and out of the gates came from San Francisco and nearby cities of Marin County and the Bay Area. Many men and women came by bus to a unique in-yard transportation terminal. Here they passed through gates protected by uniformed officers. Arriving for work aboard the picturesque Marinship ferry for each of the 3 daily shifts, one would see men and women who a few months before knew nothing about shipbuilding, but trained and guided, their collective skills tossed into the common pool of endeavor, built ships unsurpassed anywhere for craftsmanship. Inside the yard, everything was done to protect workers' health and safety. These smartly uniformed officers helped win for Marinship the coveted Coast Guard Security Shield of Honor for personnel and plant protection. A fine industrial hospital, supplemented by first aid stations throughout the yard, gave prompt and competent treatment for every type of mishap. Finest scientific tools were used to keep Marinship workers healthy, happy, and on the job. Meanwhile, a vigorous safety program constantly reduced the number and severity of industrial accidents. Yellow was adopted as the safety color for all moving equipment. In 1945, Marinship accident rates were well below national and western averages, while severity was the lowest on the coast. Outstanding were the fast service hot food stations, which were pioneered at Marinship through the joint efforts of management and labor. When the whistle sounded, each worker would choose his menu for the day by dropping a coin in the selected turnstile. Within a few minutes, he would join his friends for an appetizing and nutritious meal served piping hot. For his entertainment, there was always lunchtime music, and often a program featuring world-famous celebrities or name bands in person. This power-driven sweeper helped maintain the yard-wide cleanliness, which drew delight and praise from women visitors. Symphony were the launchings, reenacted nearly once a week. Always similar, yet always different. Famous singers such as Todd Duncan, creator of the role of Porgy, drew enthusiastic applause. And there was always the champagne bottle, beautiful in ribbon. And then smash, and the cool foam flowed down the bow as the great ship moved toward the water. The lengthening shadows of the afternoon unwrapped a moving pattern across the graceful bow of the ship. One of the most spectacular ships in Marinship's parade of launchings was the Navy oiler USS Concho, launched on a way from which all staging had been removed, ready to build Army barges. Here is something seldom, if ever, seen elsewhere: an unobstructed view of a great ship racing down the ways into the water. Proof of patriotic morale was the purchase of $18 million in war bonds by employees, more than enough to pay for the entire shipyard. Blending these ingredients into a smooth working whole was the job of management, with its on-the-job supervision, translating ideas into action, issuing orders, making sure the ships were built right, with engineers whose drawing boards were busy night and day, designing the ships the craftsmen were to fashion. From the blueprint machines came miles of technical drawings for field use, while precious originals were stored in fireproof vaults. Busiest units in the yard were the 150 horsepower diesel-electric dinghies, which rushed to the right location all the steel which Marinship expediters and traffic experts had procured in the face of war's material shortages and transportation bottlenecks. Safely in the yard, steel was unloaded from gondolas into steel racks. Here were not only sheet steel of all thicknesses, but also beams and shapes of every kind, cataloged and ready, a library of steel. Then, as it was needed, the steel was placed aboard big semi-trailers or put in racks so that the fast-moving heisters could quickly pick it up and take it to the fabricating shops. In the big plate shop, this steel was handed over to one of the 15-ton bridge cranes, which moved it to where it would be punched, cut, bent, and welded in the first manufacturing step, while beautiful Mount Tamalpais lay serene in the background. Workers made an interesting silhouette against the sky as they worked about the travel graph, which cuts an intricate design of steel to match a wooden template. The steel melts away like paper when touched by the torch of flame, leaving a trail of dancing sparks. As much as 1,100 tons a day passed through these operations and came to rest in the storage area. 12 great 50-ton gantry cranes were the mechanical, strong men of the yard. In the sub-assembly shop, skilled workers made big ones out of little ones, welding separate pieces of fabricated steel to form whole great assemblies, weighing many tons, such as this cofferdam. Like most bulkheads on these tankers, it was made of Isherwood plates, corrugated for added strength. Hundreds of man-hours were saved by building this 61-ton stern section in the shop, where it could lie on its side to allow easier access. Its intricate pattern of steel contrasts with the graceful simplicity of a bow section. Working side by side, some of the 8,000 welders who were trained at Marinship joined two deck plates, one wielding her stinger while the other inspects and cleans the weld she has made. 35 million feet of welding went into these all-welded Marinship vessels, using 20 million pounds of welding rod as electrodes. Here a brawny chipper shatters the air with the sound of his pneumatic chisel. Across the steel creeps a Union Melt automatic welding machine, its flaming spark concealed by a trail of sand-like flux. Excess flux was retrieved by vacuum. So intense was the almost atomic heat that it not only joined the steel, but melted the sand to form a brittle band of red-hot glass, which could be knocked away to reveal a perfect welded seam. On the 25-ton stern castings, a specialized form of welding was used. After heating and inspection, flaming thermite would send a stream of molten iron to join the pieces of steel, while showers of sparks gave proof of the intense heat being generated by the chemical reaction. Each crucible was a miniature volcano. Out in the open yard were stored the pre-assemblies, numbered, complete, ready to be lifted onto the nearby shipways. Here, too, beneath the California skies, were many craftsmen building ship sections on permanent frames called jigs. This automatic burning machine first heats the steel with an acetylene flame and then cuts it with a jet of oxygen. On another jig, a welder joins two curving bilge plates which flangers have pulled together. Trained hands guide the burning torch, which shapes a steel foundation for some of the ship's machinery. Welded into place, the foundation is tested for accuracy by a ship fitter. Pride of Marinship were the massive prefabricated sections, such as these boiler casings with their streamlined smokestacks. In the Marinship pipe shop were fabricated the 20 miles of complex piping which went into every Marinship tanker. Raw material was the huge stack of pipe with bright colored ends to mark each size and kind. Each section of pipe must follow the intricate pattern exactly. Inside the shop, cranes lift the pipe, automatic burning machines spin about, cutting it to the exact length desired. At each end, a flange is welded into place. Excess steel is removed by a chipper with his powerful air-driven gun. Completing the installation is a large control valve, one of 2,900 which are placed on the ship. In the copper shop, a lost art is revived as coppersmiths with wooden mallets batter heated sheets into handmade pipes, which glisten like polished jewelry lying on Milady's dressing table. But in fact, they are immense pieces, larger than a man. Each piece, painstakingly cut, bent, brazed, and polished, must match the template exactly. Hundreds of other items, such as these sheet metal ventilators, come from specialty shops. Now the prefabrication is done, we're ready to assemble the ship on the ways.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.